Down said It's a football podcast with Tom, Cody, and Sam. Hello, and welcome to the Midwest Dynasty Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm here today with Sam and Cody after taking 1 week off, but that 1 week was a good time to get some R&R so that we can give you the best of ourselves this week. Sam, how's it going?
Good. I was sad we missed last week, but not a whole lot happened in the league anyway, so glad to be back this week. Should have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, do you think that you can fit everything you wanted to talk about into this week, or are we going to have a 3-hour podcast?
It might be 3 hours. I'd say if we can keep it under 4, that's a win.
I agree. Cody, are we going to keep it under 4 this week?
We're going to try our hardest to, but we'll see.
So you guys got to come up with a visual cue so that if we're going too long, just like do like a wave in the background or something.
How about this? My visual cue will be that I'll end the meeting for Zoom, and then we won't be showing anything anymore. So it'll just be a cutoff.
Oh, okay. And then we can try to make it a cliffhanger so that we end on something super ridiculous that you end it just out of nowhere, and then people maybe we'll get more than 10 views for the next week then.
Hey, those 10 views are great. They matter.
YouTube views matter too.
How many of those views do you think is just us checking on our own video?
At least one from me every week, because I always watch it to make sure it uploaded correctly.
Yeah, I watch it too.
Yeah, me too.
So we're down to 7. Oh,
That's
no.
pretty good. That's pretty good.
Well, if this implores any of you to do anything, you should still go back to our most watched video, which is the random COVID episode. I think it's at like 34 views and counting right now.
Jeez. Popular.
Yeah, I think that was definitely our prime podcast material. But anyway, enough about that. Let's talk about what we're going to do this week. So we're planning on having a pretty exciting kind of playoff introduction this week. That's kind of the theme of this week's meeting. Jesus Christ, too much corporate on the brain. We brought you all here today to talk about financials. No, we're going to talk about the playoff picture, really run down. This is technically the week before the playoffs, but in theory, because of the weird bye structure, this is actually going to be the first week of the playoffs coming up, but just no one knows their matchup. So it's kind of wild. It's going to be a bit of like the wild, wild west. Before all of that, we're actually going to go through our headlines, just like we always do, break down what we thought about this week. Then we're going to do a matchup rundown, and we'll end with that playoff picture discussion, and I think it'll be really, really fun. So without further ado, Cody, what was your headline for this week, week 11?
It's the injury of Joe Burrow. It's so tough to watch. Just knowing that a young quarterback's going to be gone now for the rest of the year, and then it's like an ACL tear, and I think it's also an MCL tear to it. Yep. It's like, it's just so sad. I love Joe Burrow.
Yeah, I agree. It really sucks. He was having such a good season too, and while the team wasn't playing that well, their offense was kind of humming, and I don't know, just a real bummer to see that season end. Hopefully he's back for the beginning of next season though.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see how it hits the weapons, that offense now. Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, AJ Green even. Who's their backup? Trivia.
Ryan Finley.
Yeah. It's not good.
Yeah, that's a bummer for not just the Bengals, but the NFL.
Oh.
Yep.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Cody. But Sam, do you have a more positive, uplifting Week 11 headline?
Kind of. It's half positive, half negative for me. So I'm kind of actually going along the same things of injured quarterbacks, so that part sucks. But Taysom Hill looked actually pretty good, and he had the stats to back it up. This week, I believe he had over 10 yards per attempt, not even completion, and 2 rushing touchdowns. I think he is going to hurt every single player in that offense fantasy-wise, but he actually looks like he could be a starting quarterback in the league based on one game.
Yeah, that's really good for a tight end, too. Like, it's unbelievable stats.
Yeah. Yeah, super good. 230 yards throwing for a tight end is not bad.
Thanks, ESPN. No, I do think that Taysom Hill is a fantastic case study and example of what happens when good coaching recognizes the strengths and weaknesses of their personnel and plays accordingly. It's very similar to what happened with Baltimore and Lamar Jackson. It's the same way with how Andy Reid was able to accentuate the skills of Patrick Mahomes. And now we're seeing Taysom Hill, who I think on probably maybe 3 other teams would be able to utilize him based off just strictly good coaching and good play calling. And the Saints are one of those teams. I mean, Sean Payton's a genius. So I don't know. It's just really cool to see that he's actually having success.
Yeah. Yep. It was interesting to see them kind of change the entire offense around him too. Alvin Kamara's first career game without a reception, but they were still marching and won. So good for them.
Exactly. Yeah, my headline this week is, it's really cool. I'm going to talk about myself a little bit. I really appreciate that I have the second most points scored, and I have the second best record, which conversely, by that one triangle property, means I'm the 4th seed in the league. Yeah, that's cool. That makes a lot of sense. That was just my jab. That's not really my headline. My real headline is this week is the first week that, as a Lions fan, I think I can safely say that I think there's no possible way that management can justify not getting rid of Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia. I think it's time. And I think that I'm really happy that Thanksgiving is in 4 days or 3 days, not 2 days now, because I think when they lose to the Texans, it's going to be even more like there cannot be any logic other than just firing him on the Friday after Thanksgiving. Black Friday is going to be Red Friday for Matt Patricia.
Yeah, no, it's pretty disappointing to get shut out by any team, but they got shut out by the Panthers. If it was maybe like Pittsburgh or Baltimore, it'd be a little more understandable. But the Panthers are not that good of a team, and you guys got crushed.
Yeah, I think to me it's interesting to see too how much your team is going to need DeAndre Swift to be healthy in the coming games too. Just because the offense, I kind of thought it came and went through Matt Stafford. I'm starting to think it comes and goes through DeAndre Swift. I mean, you're the resident Lions watcher, so what do you think about that, Tom?
Well, Kenny Golladay has been missing too, which is a huge that he was we haven't lacked a true wide receiver one in a long time because Kenny Golladay kind of came of age right after Calvin Johnson left. And so this is the first time in a while. The worst case we ever had it situationally was when Calvin Johnson was injured, but then we still had Golden Tate and Marvin Jones. So with Kenny Golladay out and even more unfortunate injuries to Danny Amendola, we have no weapons. But that being said, I agree. DeAndre Swift has been incredible. Like, actually looked good, and not just like. There's a huge difference with the play calling they can have with him on the field relative to just Kerryon Johnson and Adrian Peterson. And I'm really excited for him for the future. But if it's anything like any other running back on the Lions, other than Barry Sanders, he'll have this one good year, and everyone will have promise for him, and then he'll fucking suck next year. So.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see that. I think the DeAndre Swift is a really exciting prospect to me because in the sense that I think it's going to be interesting to see going forward. Whenever you have the rookie draft, you only draft running backs a lot of times based on where they're going and the position. CEH was that way before going into the draft. But it's nice to see somebody where Swift was the clear number one. I guess Taylor was up there too, but to me, he was like the number one running back coming into the draft. And then he got drafted, I think 3rd or 4th as a running back, and he fell down the board quite a ways. But now you're seeing him go back up to number 1. So it's like sometimes you just got to wonder if talent does prevail a little bit for running backs also.
Yeah, I'm undecided. I think top tier talent prevails. I still think that anything other. I think actually this is the opinion Sam kind of came to, which I agreed that top tier talent prevails. But other than top talent, I think that it is just situation for running backs.
Yeah, 100% agree.
You transplant Kamara, McCaffrey, or Cook to any other team, and I think they're still going to be as good as they are.
Yeah, so. I totally agree.
So yeah, there's headlines. All solid headlines. But I do want to start sharing my screen now because this is the perfect time to run through the matchups. We didn't get to do that a couple weeks ago, and then we didn't get to do it last week. So it's time to do it once again. This is the last time that we're really gonna talk through relevant regular season because a lot of the matchups are starting to shake out already. As far as we'll talk about this later, but some of the matchups coming into these next couple weeks don't matter as much as this is my agenda. Where am I? Can you see my screen? Am I sharing?
You can.
See it. Yep.
You saw my background. Where am I? Sleeper. There we go.
What a nice lady jogging in the background.
Why do you think I picked that background?
Oh,
Is that Nicole? Is that just
Yes.
a random lady?
Of
Oh no!
course.
Oh no! Oh. How do you incognito a background?
You torrent everything that you on your computer so that no one actually knows where it's coming from, so you can't prove that it's not you.
smart.
Whoa, that was way too fast of a response.
All right, let's start off with a pretty high caliber matchup here. Really important one for both Trujillo and Marcus in the situation. Trujillo scored 173 points, proving himself to remain the strong tiered team that he is, even without Austin Eckler, but having Nick Chubb back on the field. So let's start with Trujillo. Notably, I think that one of the players that just continues to perform over and over again is just Darren Waller, and he's reaffirmed that he is just one of those top tier talents. That's like Travis Kelce, where he's really could probably play the wide receiver position, but they stuck him at tight end. So I think that's great for him. Also, Cooper Kupp having a historically good week this week, matched up with Robert Woods to be the first two ESPN stat. Are you guys ready for an ESPN stat?
Oh, so ready.
Can you handle this? Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp were the first two receivers to have 10 or more receptions since who was it? There was two other receivers. Anyway, it was an accolade. There's like 5 receivers in the last 20 years.
I mean, it's kind of interesting, I guess, but not the worst I've ever heard.
Yeah, that I was honestly, when you said ESPN stat, I was waiting for like the first collection of guys on a Monday night in a rainy sky during COVID. Some weird stipulation like that.
During COVID, that would be an ESPN stat. During a major pandemic.
Yeah, during a pandemic. We haven't seen the likes of this one since the bubonic plague.
Oh, man.
Honestly, I think this is pretty chalk. Are there any observations as I scroll through this? Any players you want to highlight on Trujillo's team?
Tough game from Stafford. Shouldn't matter long term for him as he'll have Allen back in there. But yeah, I think once his team is fully healthy, he'll be a force.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting too. Is seeing Dobbins also have a productive game. Unfortunately, he might have COVID. Going into this week when he needs them, which is really unfortunate. But kind of had that breakout game this week. That I think we all know he has the talent, and finally he got the carries and the production to kind of back it up.
Yeah, I still think that's huge for the Ravens for him to step up, because I do believe that both Mark Ingram and Gus Edwards are likely to be gone next year. So pretty high performing bench there for Trujillo. Other than that, I think that we're really looking forward to looking and seeing what Trujillo does in the playoffs, and I think he's got a solid team. And I do think you could make the strong argument that he is indeed the second best team, especially with Austin Eckler rumored to come back.
And Chris Carson, too.
And
I believe is also out. And yeah, I mean, even OBJ there, you could potentially throw him in certain spots, but super deep team. So
isn't OBJ out for the year, or is he coming back?
Yeah, out for the year. I guess coming back next year, but
yeah. His team is just incredibly deep, though. He can just sustain so many injuries. It's really impressive.
Well, it's funny you say that, because that actually is worth noting that early on we didn't know how deep it could, he could stay up with it, because we had a couple question marks about DJ Moore especially, but recently he's really stepped up. I don't know if you remember, but earlier on we targeted these 4 weeks. Like week 4, we were like, holy crap, Robbie Anderson took over that role, and maybe DJ Moore isn't as good as we thought. and now he's had several solid weeks again. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, he's definitely stepped up a lot. You can see he's wide receiver 13 right there in PPR. To me, at least, he's still not where you necessarily wanted him to start the year, but he's really not that far off. So I think if you can cut down on a couple of those lower games and maybe make those 8.5s, 12.5s, I think he'll be good to go.
Yeah, I think honestly for Matt Trujillo, it's been a dream setting for DJ Moore. He got him after I think that 3 or 8.5 week, one of those two, because he got him from Mike Reed, who got him from Adam. That was one of Mike Reed's grab and go type players. So I mean, if you've seen a 19-point and a 24-point week 2 weeks in a row for Trujillo, I'm thinking, wow, I'm very happy I got this guy right now. And I think he's going back to being the number one playmaker on that team. So he's young, 2 years experience only. I think he's got a bright future ahead of him.
I agree. Not to mention that Curtis Samuel on that team is actually they're figuring out that gadget kind of role for him too. So even though I do love Teddy Bridgewater, I do think that there's a world where they do have to kind of upgrade from him to really truly perform as an offense, ideally, just based on how many weapons they have on that team. My God. I don't have anything else to say about Trujillo's team. Awesome team. Let's actually talk about Marcus now. Justin Herbert, once again, just definitely up there for Rookie of the Year, but it's hard to justify who could possibly be Rookie of the Year just with how many wide receivers that are rookies are just completely outperforming expectations, as we've touched on several times this year. And really the NFL, I know generic in the NFL, just listening to other broadcasters, they've even pointed out that just everyone's just appalled with how great the wide receivers are this year.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have a little Adam Thielen, who I've always been a little bit down on, but 35 points again this week. And let's just take a look at his score output, because he's wide receiver 8. Like I said, I'm always a little bit too down on him because he's able to still have that production even with Justin Jefferson. And I don't know. You guys watch Adam Thielen quite a bit. So do you have any other thoughts?
Yeah, no, he's super good. I mean, I think he needs someone opposite of him, because if he's double covered, he's not as good, but he made a great catch in the end zone, one-handed grab and toe touching. Overall, he should be pretty good for the next year or two. I do want to point out too that Marcus just got him in a trade from Trujillo, actually. So that trade could literally be the difference between Marcus making playoffs and not making playoffs based on how close it is. So far, well done based on that.
That's wild.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I don't know. I like Thielen. I like Thielen's route running ability. I love his ability to actually catch the ball. He doesn't do anything extremely well, but he's just above average in every single area to me. I don't know. So I think I love watching him as a wide receiver, especially opposite of Jet. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how he goes going forward. But I have optimism for him.
Is that really what people are fucking calling him? Jet?
That's what he calls himself, I think.
It's been that way since college.
Wait, actually?
Yeah.
Oh, it's self-proclaimed, kind of like how I called myself Beast Brumba.
Yeah, pretty much the same.
Yeah, you started a trend.
Yeah.
Very cool. Now I know that I can compare myself to an NFL player.
Smart.
Very smart. Yeah, we'll definitely have to touch on later Skonieski's playoff chances and how much that really would have been affected by Adam Thielen. Do we want to quickly talk about that Adam Thielen trade as well?
Sure.
Let's
You're gonna have to go 13 days back.
13 days. Oh wow. What do you know? 13 days. Someone knows their dynasty league.
That's why they pay me the big bucks.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, the big $0 from our ad revenue. All right, let's break this one down. This is actually this isn't. I mean, these are some big name players here. Trujillo acquired Chris Carson and John Brown for Marcus acquiring Adam Thielen. We haven't really had the time to talk about this much. So what are your raw thoughts, Sam? Let's start with you.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great trade for both teams, honestly. Most of these players are older assets. I think Chris Carson's 26 or 27, so pretty old for a running back. Adam Adam Thielen is 30. I just saw. So they're both pretty old. Trujillo needed a running back with the injuries he's had, which we talked about earlier. And honestly, Marcus's team is just extremely shallow and needs wide receivers more than anything, as he has Josh Jacobs and Antonio Gibson at running back already. So I just think it fills holes for both teams, and they're both winners.
Yeah, do you agree, Cody?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think Adam Thielen provides that high end. I know he's wide receiver number 8 right now, but Adam Thielen to me is always just a high end wide receiver 2, maybe low end wide receiver 1 this year. And I think that's providing a huge service to Marcus's team. And then on the flip side, Chris Carson to me is a mid-range RB2 that literally can fill in right there for Austin Eckler and Nick Chubb if they weren't going to come back. Unfortunately, he's been injured too, which has really been unfortunate, but I think normally he's one of those guys. And then John Brown, to me, just gives you a reliable baseline floor backup option. You know that you're probably going to get about 10 points out of him that week. Probably not too much higher, but sometimes a little bit lower. So, I mean, you look right there, and I get he has 0 games. I think the Kansas City game must have been a fluke because that seems strange to me. But to me, he's just always been kind of a baseline player.
Yeah, this trade is the quintessential, like, right around playoff time kind of trade to me, where people are trying to make their last second adjustments to either put themselves in a situation that they can make playoffs or put themselves in a situation that they can exceed in the playoffs. So cool. Yeah, I just wanted to really quickly touch on that, get your guys' opinion. It sounds like that was not a Sam trade. That was actually even. So that's good to see.
Yeah, why
All right.
not even trades? It's no fun.
I had to get in my dig there, Sam. I hope you don't mind.
No, never.
Okay, let's just go down the list here. Let's start with Sam and Laramie here. So Sam blowing out Laramie. I do think it's hilarious that Laramie had brought up that you got worst manager, which again, it's so funny because last year I got worst manager so often. And my fundamental problem with it was that it doesn't make any fucking goddamn sense. Of course, you're going to be the worst manager if your bench is amazing because it's going to be impossible to choose the right guys every time just based on variance. And now we're seeing that happen with you. Obviously, you're not the fucking worst manager. What a stupid-ass stat. You've built one of the best teams we've ever seen. So triggered.
I think it should be like worst coach, not G, because the GM gets those players and the coach has to choose who to put in. So
yeah, but it's all fucking random.
Barely.
All right, that's my week 11 and a half headline.
Was that our analysis on Sam's team? So he's just the worst manager?
Yeah. Is there really? I mean, Sam, I'm going to turn this to you. We've talked about Julio Jones quite a bit. I know he's injured again. I guess I don't want to talk about him if we already kind of have a conclusion on him because it seems like there's no one else really that's changed or moved their needle. I guess let's talk about Tua. We actually haven't talked about Tua much, to be honest. We've talked about him, I think the three of us just for fun, but never on the podcast. He's had 2 solid weeks in a row, and then this third week he got benched. I mean, should we – all right, we're going to call this a segment. Are we overreacting or underreacting to Tua being benched in the third quarter?
Like, as a coach, are we overreact? Like, is the coach overreacting?
As a fantasy manager of Tua Tagovailoa.
Oh, I don't think so. I think there's something – to me, that scares me to see a head coach bench a player whenever it happens. To me, that normally isn't a normal thing, and he's going to be on Miami for the foreseeable future. If he's going to have a coach that operates like that, that worries me. But I've always been pessimistic on Tua, so I am biased. But, I mean, he took 6 sacks. He's a rookie, so I'm going to cut him a little slack there. But 6 sacks is a lot to take.
Yeah. Yeah, I know you're always on the opposite side. I'm really not that concerned. I mean, it's never good to see, but like, I don't think he's played that poorly this year. The 6 sacks is a bit concerning, but he has 0 interceptions, which to me is pretty crazy for a rookie. 1 fumble in his first game against the Rams, who are really good. I think if he's protecting the ball, I'm actually really shocked that they're pulling him because to me that seems kind of foolish. I don't think he's played that poorly, but I guess I've only watched 1 or 2 of his games. But what do you think, Tom?
I find myself watching, since I have Sunday Ticket, whenever I can tune in to Tua. I try to. And I'm actually going to be even farther the other end of the spectrum. I'm not worried at all. I don't think this means anything. I think Tua's shown me enough that he has a lot of potential. I think that he could be next year's Kyler Murray. And I do not think this is – I think, Cody, you're taking the stance of Tua that I always took on Daniel Jones. You just have this irrational hatred. But I think that's just flat out wrong. I think Tua's his first couple starts, they were definitely playing more of a conservative offense for him to get warmed up, but he excelled not excelled, but he played to the offense the way he was supposed to. Yeah, he struggled a little bit against Denver's defense here, but he's a rookie, and not only is he a rookie, but this is his third start. Was his third start? So I'm not worried at all. Like, I don't think this moves my needle on him whatsoever. To be frank. So
Yeah, I think that's fine. I just think most rookie QBs are generally, to me, it's not even just a Tua thing. It's a coach-quarterback relationship thing. That's what can worry me and concern me.
I don't think most rookie QBs are in a situation, though, where you're drafted that highly, so you're starting your first year, but your team is also a playoff team. Because they are a playoff team, and in this scenario, the coach just thought Ryan Fitzpatrick gave them a better chance. I agree with you that it's slightly concerning because they didn't think Tua was that person, but like Burrow and Herbert, I believe they both have like 3 wins or less, so they're really not in the same position at all as the Tua is. But
yeah, I agree. But Tua's stats aren't even comparable to Joe Burrow's or Justin Herbert's stats right now to me at all.
No, and I'm not saying they have been, but I think just the fact that he's played well enough. I mean, averaging the 2 games he's played the whole time, he's averaged 200 yards and 2 touchdowns and 0 picks. Not elite stats, not going to argue that. But that's solid stats. If you ended a season averaging that, that's a very good season.
Yeah.
I just wanted to add that I agree with that, and I also think that we have to view this year with Burrow and Herbert as anomalous because this has been arguably the best rookie performance we've seen out of quarterbacks ever, just because of those 2 guys alone. And so to compare Tua to those guys, I don't think is fair, especially after he came off of a major injury. So he hasn't had real game action in a long time, and other than his first start, obviously a couple weeks ago. But yeah, I love Tua, and I'd be so happy to own him. I don't think he's exactly like Kyler because I don't think he has the same running ability, but I don't know. I'd be happy to own him.
Yeah, and I am happy to own him. I wouldn't bet on him being a long-term QB1. I mean, maybe like a fringe QB1, QB2. Like, I don't think he'll put up the stats that Kyler will, or at this point, even like Herbert probably will. But I think he'll be a solid starter in this league for a long time.
I agree. Cool. All right. I think that's enough. I think that was kind of the most interesting conversation as far as player base for you. Really no other changes to any major players for you unless you think of anything different.
I guess one quick question for you guys. Are you guys concerned about Russell Wilson at all? I think he has like 8 turnovers in the last 3 games. Really hasn't put up that good of stats. Still been okay, but not great. Or do you guys still think he's like top 3 or 4 going forward?
It is wild.
Yeah. I actually am not concerned about him. That's actually funny to me. I think I guess maybe it might depend when they've had a lot of running back uncertainty right now. So I think that's allowed teams to, not that they don't before, but to really hone in on Russell Wilson. So I don't know. He maybe was just like that after the Rams. I mean, the Rams are a good defense. So I'm going to give him a break on the Rams completely. The Rams are a damn good defense. And then Arizona's surprising, but he didn't play that poorly against Arizona, and he's still getting his team wins. So I don't know. I think he'll be fine.
It's just the fumbles, which always makes me.
A lot of fumbles.
It always makes me think that that's like an offensive line thing, you know. So I don't know. I think the easy answer to take is that it's Russell Wilson. He's proven over years that he's still good. There's no like, or still good is just not the right wording. That he's still fantastic and an elite Hall of Fame quarterback, arguably. I'm not. I mean, we were talking about this year that he could have won the MVP. I definitely think that he's no longer an MVP candidate. Really, I mean, a serious one. I still think Aaron Rodgers and Pat Mahomes probably take one of those will take it. But other than that, that's the only thing that's changed for him. He's still a solid top 10 quarterback in fantasy.
Yeah, I just want to add next 4 matchups are Philadelphia, the Giants, the Jets, and Washington.
Oh,
I think
man.
he'll be okay.
31 against Washington. I will hammer the under on that. Oh
Yeah,
my
I agree with
gosh.
that. But
No way.
I agree with that. But I don't know. I don't think those are very good defenses coming up at all for him.
No. They're
32
not.
against New York, too.
What the heck? Okay, so looking at a comparable game right now against San Francisco, he put up 260, 0 interceptions, and 4 touchdowns. And they're saying he's going to have a better game than that. That's BS. No way.
Dollar bet, anyone? Anyone want to disagree with Sam?
I don't want to take the over on any quarterback ever on almost any game over 30.
No,
That's
even
such an
25
aggressive
is
line.
risky. Jeez. That's nuts.
Yeah, I'd be fair. I would be willing to take that to Vegas.
Yeah.
Oof.
Man. All right. Well, we agree. Yeah, I'm glad you highlighted him, Sam. He's definitely been interesting to watch. But I think fumbles are kind of fluky for quarterbacks, especially. For running backs, it's different. But
Yeah, and I was just surprised because he usually has such good pocket awareness. But yeah, I don't know. Just got caught out of.
spot, he had a little twinkle in his eye. We were kind of rubbing his hair, hoping, buddy, you can do it. We believe. And now we're sitting here in week 11 and saying, shit, he's gone. He's out. Nothing. It did not go his way. It's kind of a bummer.
Podcast jinx.
It is. It's like the Madden curse.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He had a lot of buys this week, I noticed. Montgomery being one of them. Wayne Gallman, who he's occasionally been playing even though he doesn't want to.
Mixon's out.
Sterling Shepard is out.
Sterling Shepard is out. So this week he has gotten – let's talk about Miles Sanders, actually, because he came back from injury, and it's been 2 weeks now since he came out after the bye, and they're really, really slowing down his snap percentage and his touches. I don't know if that's injury-based or not, but he hasn't really been producing that great. Am I wrong?
Yeah. I'm not worried about him. I mean, the production actually, to me, for what he's gotten has been really good. I mean, as far as just running, I mean, yeah, his receptions could be a little bit higher, but he's at least still seeing 5 targets a game. That's pretty fair. It's probably a little bit unlucky that he just hasn't scored either, which a couple touchdowns here or there really, I guess it's only been 2 games, but even a touchdown here makes one of those games look like not that bad of a game. So to me, he still looks fine.
Yeah, I agree. I think long term, like if you want to have a guy for the next 5 years, these are the exact amount of touches that you want because these can still put up RB1 numbers without overdoing it, like a Dalvin Cook or a Derrick Henry or Christian McCaffrey. I mean, realistically, 16 carries and then five targets. He should catch more than 2 and 3 receptions on 5 targets for a running back. So if you bumped it up to 4 or even 3 for both of them, and then add in a touchdown here and there, he's going to be a solid RB1. I'm not worried about him at all.
Yeah. You've turned my opinion. Not to mention that he also has 0 touchdowns. So that's certainly anomalous because I think for a guy like him, he should average 0.8 a game, something around there maybe.
Yep.
So cool. Thanks for changing my opinion. Change my mind like Steven Crowder.
Change my mind.
Robbie Anderson, still Robbie Anderson. He's been like, solid guy, but he hasn't been boosting off, and we're seeing a pretty direct correlation with DJ Moore kind of taking over a little bit more in that offense. So I think moving forward, we'll probably just see a nice 1-2 punch for both of them.
Week 6 on, that's the Robbie Anderson we expected.
Yep, 100%.
9 to 13 points basically every week, not the 29, 19, 11, 18, 21.
Right.
So, yeah, this is a lot closer.
But still impressive. I think I don't want to just like gloss over and say we were wrong. I don't think we were wrong. I still think our conclusion about saying that it was cool to see Robbie Anderson capable of being wide receiver 1 is accurate. I just think that the team, I think defense is adjusted to him being the wide receiver 1, and the team recognized the need to get DJ more and more involved in the offense.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point. I think from the beginning of the year till now, it shifted from Robbie Anderson 1 I'm blanking on his name, who's the other
Moore,
receiver.
DJ Moore.
Yeah, DJ Moore being a 2, and now it's kind of 1A, 1B, which I think is good for that team and good for both players.
Yeah, I think the uptick in Curtis Samuel now lately is also kind of added to the downfall of or has added to the downfall of Anderson a little bit now. I think when you have DJ Moore going off and Curtis Samuel, it's really tough to support 3 wide receivers in an offense and make them all fantasy relevant. So I think sometimes you're just going to see this carousel with them.
I agree.
Yep.
Chase Edmonds is the last one I think would be interesting to talk about because he's very loudly, I'm not even going to say quietly, he's very loudly like a real RB2 this year, which is just wild considering that Kenyon Drake is on that offense. Obviously, we can't glance over the fact that Kenyon Drake has been injured a few times, whereas Chase Edmonds has been perfectly healthy for the most part throughout this year. But you guys have any intel or any perspective on what the future for Chase Edmonds as a dynasty asset might be?
It's hard to say. I feel like he fits into that category we talked about earlier, where he's a good running back, but based on situation. So seems like he's pretty good though.
I have loved Chase Edmonds. I loved Chase Edmonds last year watching him run, and I loved watching him as the backup for David Johnson that one year. I do not know why he's not the starter. I don't know why Kenyon Drake is the starter on that team. It clearly to me should be Chase Edmonds. He's clearly more talented. Look at all of his yards per carry there, even just on 4 or 5 attempts. Give this guy like 15 carries. I don't know. I think he's dynamic. I think he can do it all. So it always kind of disheartens me.
I will counter that by saying that I think they're different running backs. I think Chase Edmonds is very much the receiving running back, third down guy, kind of lightning, whereas Kenyon Drake isn't necessarily thunder per se, but he is more of an aggressive downhill runner than Chase Edmonds is. So I actually think they complement each other very well. It's very similar to the Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette situation, where I think that Chase Edmonds is the Leonard Fournette, which is kind of weird because Leonard Fournette out of college really was a power back. But I digress on that. I'm talking about 2020 here. I don't know. I think we've seen this so many years over the years. So many times over the years where there have been 2 running backs that are like complementary that work really well. The Vikings have had that. The Bears have had that. Even the Seahawks over the years. So I just think this is another one of those situations. I guess the better question is buy or sell Chase Edmonds dynasty or hold.
Number 18. I'd probably say hold. I mean, I think even though he's number 18, I don't think there's enough believers in Chase Edmonds right now to buy him. And then I don't think sell him either, because I actually do think that if this guy ever gets the full-on starting gig and can actually get, a numerous amount of carries, I think he will be good. I think he'll be really good. So to me, he's just a hold player right now.
Yeah, Cody,
Cool.
if you could get a late second, would you sell?
For Chase Edmonds?
Yeah.
No.
Really? What about a
Nope.
mid-second? Or where's the line?
It's somewhere between that early to mid-second range for him. I like him a lot. I really think he's good.
I think like, early to mid is the line. It's not mid, but it's not early, because early I would
Right.
snap on that.
Yep.
It is early to mid, especially because I have no idea what 2021 is going to look like. So, yeah. Cool. We agree. Yay.
Teamwork.
That's teamwork. His trademark.
No,
All right.
more arguments.
Yeah, we need to start disagreeing on shit. We're becoming our own echo chamber here.
I know. Such hive mind. It's great.
Maybe we all talk too much.
Yeah. We need to stop talking. We need to just like lock ourselves in a closet for a year and never talk to each other and then come out of it. Well, wait a minute. That makes us sound like we're all gay.
What's
Why,
wrong with
just 'cause we'd
that?
be coming out of the closet?
Speaking of gay, let's. I'm sorry, this is bad.
Solid transition. I love
Oh, canceled.
I can't. It was just too perfect. I'm just gonna not. I'm not gonna take this. I'm gonna say.
Take
Speaking
it
of that,
easy, James Corden.
let's talk about Fowler's team. Scored 121 points. And he started the former XFL MVP PJ Walker. I just watched this guy play. He actually did look kind of decent. And when I saw him got picked up, and then I like watched the intro of the Lions Panthers game. They were talking him up, and I was like, shit, that's actually a decent flyer. Like, I didn't think he would be startable, but
well, he is Teddy, so he just had to start a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and Minshew's injured still.
Yeah, so I think Philip Walker was his only starting quarterback on his team.
God, what a travesty!
Yeah, it's unlucky.
Yeah,
especially this week. I mean, he easily could have gotten this win, and if he gets this win, that's
probably the division.
Yeah, that's the division. That's really sad for him that he didn't get this one, especially with all the win now trades he's made.
Yeah, he's been plagued by injuries the whole year. It's a bummer it didn't work out for him, but what are you gonna do? That's fantasy.
Yep.
That is a bummer, though. I think that's just kind of the highlight. There's not really any one player to talk about necessarily on Fowler. We've actually talked about his team probably more than any other team this year so many times because we've all been pulling for him. And I think we've been waiting for that turnaround to be like, oh, cool, his team's really healthy. It'll be okay. But then every week it seems like he just loses someone over and over again. And it's just so sad that happened to him. Now that the season is really in the twilight, he could still make the playoffs, but I don't know what his chances are in the playoffs. And I don't know. I think we should have a moment of silence for Fowler's team. What do you think?
Sure.
Oh, I was doing the moment right there.
Oh, awkward.
Oh, shit.
I don't know. So I think the thing with Fowler's team, though, is we talked about at the beginning of the season that his starting lineup really is good. When he had Saquon, Aaron Jones, Dak Prescott, DK Metcalf, DJ Chark. I know his team has changed a lot during the season. Like, his team had literally zero depth. So, like, if any of those guys get injured, he's probably out of it. So, although it does suck, he wasn't necessarily set up like a team like Trujillo's is, where he could have 2 to 3 injuries and still be a playoff team. So, bummer, though, still.
It is a bummer. And I know what you're saying because I'm a big believer in depth because that's kind of how I built my team too. But I don't know. To be competitive, I don't think you should have to build depth. Like, that should be a luxury. It's just a bummer that he got bitten on the other end of it.
Yeah, I get it. It's just football. Injuries happen. I guess the way I built my team is I have one decent backup at each position. So I could definitely still be plagued by injuries and get unlucky there. And then that would be on me. But just a bummer that especially his big name players got injured like Dak and Saquon.
Yeah, the fantasy football gods can be quite cruel.
All right, so we're gonna leave talking about Fowler's team by solving this debate. Pick a player. Dynasty. Teddy Bridgewater, Gardner Minshew.
Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah, I'd go Teddy as well.
Even though there's a pretty huge age difference between them.
I don't think. What is he? 23.
4 years. Yeah.
I think Teddy is like the guaranteed starter for the next. I think he has 2 more years in his contract, and he's played really well. And I think Gardner, although I did like him coming into the year, I think he could be replaced.
Yeah, I think Minshew's done after this year. Maybe he has partial season next year, but the Jags are projected to get one of the top 2 picks, and I think it's foreseeable that if it'll either be Fields or somehow if Lawrence drops down to that, it'll be them. It'll be Lawrence. So I think they get one of those 2 quarterbacks in the draft, looking at it high level. And when they do that, I think Minshew mania is kind of brought into an abrupt halt.
Yep, completely agree. Jags are 1-9 right now. I think Gardner needs to get back in there, get them at least 2, if not 3 wins by the end of the year to keep his job.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with what you guys are saying. I actually think Gardner Minshew is going to be like, for the rest of his career, I could see him being like that guy that's just always a backup and solid when you want to plug him in as a backup, and then like plays till he's 42 and then is still decent and then retires after being paid to just live in Texas and be paid like $2 million a year just to be ready to play football. Like, I could see that being his career.
He'll kind of be like Ryan Fitzpatrick.
That's what I was just gonna say. He's like a decade younger Ryan Fitzpatrick. He's got the swag. He's got the gunslinger mentality, and
Mhm.
Right.
Fathers
The
Bakery
guy that can
backup.
just like jump in. He has so much confidence that he can just be that quarterback when you need him. Yeah, I could see that definitely being like being on a competitive team backup. So if I were Gardner Minshew, I wouldn't feel bad about myself.
I would also be okay with being a backup quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah, Alex Moran said that's the best place to be.
Yep.
Yes.
Good reference. That's good.
Thank you.
All right. Let's talk about Adam. So again, Kyler Murray I just talked about him because of making the comparison to Tua Tagovailoa. I'm getting really good at saying his name, by the way. And I do think that Tua is the next year's Kyler Murray, and Kyler Murray is just continuing to be this year's Kyler Murray, which is really, really solid for Adam's team. One of the major reasons that he actually is a playoff contender, I should say, in a Superflex world. It's interesting to see both Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Le'Veon Bell putting 30 points together on the Chiefs. Let's talk about that situation. We haven't revisited really since Le'Veon Bell joined that team. Do we think that Clyde Edwards-Helaire is his future brighter in the future than it is currently, or is Le'Veon Bell going to play a decent part of that next year?
Oh, I don't think Le'Veon Bell is going to be a part of that at all. I think Le'Veon's done after this year with them, and then I mean maybe they re-sign him, but I don't even think it matters. I truly think it's been the Clyde Edwards-Helaire show, and I think Le'Veon plays maybe a little bit of part in there, but no more part than a Darrell Williams would or Damian Williams when he comes back will. So to me, it's even.
Yeah. For the most part, I agree with that. I think Le'Veon's done it for this year too. I do think that if it's one of the other guys, maybe they get 3 carries a game instead of 7. But either way, it's Clyde's show. He's not going to lose that job. He's played well enough to keep it. And even with signing a former Pro Bowl caliber running back who's still barely past his prime and not getting that many carries, it's impressive they've still gone to Clyde as much as they have.
Yeah, when we drafted in auction, I remember thinking very distinctly that Le'Veon Bell was overpaid for, and I wasn't the only one, I know, but it's just funny to see how even though we had very little dynasty experience, the three of us, I think we were kind of right? Like, I think that he did just rapidly descend. He was 26 when he was drafted, and here we are today. It's kind of interesting, like, looking back at that, here we are today saying, like, he might be done. Like, that's wild how quickly that critical age for a running back, here he is 28. And 28 and 29 are the years where they say that, statistically running backs just go downhill. And here we're saying it again we're talking about this guy was like him and Antonio Brown on the Steelers were just like top 5 picks every year for like 5 or 6 years. It's just wild. So
yeah, I think a couple points on that. It is crazy that he's fallen that quickly. And when he was drafted, he was coming off 4 consecutive the number 1 running back seasons. So like he was the cream of the crop. He's just the best running back by far. And then he held out for a year, which sucked. But one thing I actually didn't realize until right now is that Adam drafted Le'Veon Bell, and he just got him back on his team. So it's kind of come full circle, which is kind of funny.
Yeah, let's not compare
Adam's bench.
Yeah, let's not compare the value of those trades together, because I can tell you that they will not look good for him.
Yeah, he got good value the first time.
Yeah, Sam, you're 100% correct. The holdout killed him. The holdout is, but I think Lev Bell is almost an anomaly to kind of look at with this. I hear what you're saying, Tom, and I generally agree with it. But I actually just do believe the holdout killed him. I don't know what it was about that. I think it was the fact that he just literally wouldn't come to an agreement with the Steelers. I think if he had went back to the Steelers and played another 3-4 years with them, he would have continued being that top number 1 running back, essentially. Not number 1 as in number 1, but number 1 as in like top tier. I don't know. That's my opinion. I think that team's just so set up for that, and he just knew how to play into that team.
I totally agree. And I think he's in a similar situation to like Alvin Kamara, where if Alvin Kamara held out right now and then got picked up by the Jets, I think Alvin Kamara would be a mid RB2 as well, rather than a high-end RB1. So
that's a really good comparison, actually. Yeah. Let's move on. Matt and Cody. Cody's going for the clean 0-12. Let's do it. 12 out of 0-12. I can't think of another possible.
That is crazy.
I don't half-ass things.
That is a perfect way of putting it. You went balls to the wall on both ends, and mother of God, I respect you.
I literally took one testicle, put it on the winning side, and I took my other testicle and put it on the losing side, like completely on both sides of the spectrum.
I would not want to be your testicles.
Well, they're
Yeah,
elastic.
sounds miserable.
You get used to it.
Yeah.
All right, year in review. Cody Halla, pick one player on your abysmal team that you're the most excited for.
Well, I thank you for that heavy introduction. Out of all my young players, by far the one I'm actually most excited for to see the potential from him, which is really surprising because I didn't draft him at all. I traded for him. It's actually Michael Pittman. He's had 2 good weeks in a row now, putting up 20 points and then not getting, ideally as many targets as I wanted him to, but he had a nice 45-yard touchdown catch. I think this guy could be good. I think he could be a low-end wide receiver 2 or high wide receiver 3 for me, possibly, which just having that when I had him as a throw-in player for the Saquon Barkley trade, if I can get him to kind of be at that level and then Saquon, I think that trade is looking really well for me. So he, to me, is seeing optimistic signs from him is very, very good.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's looked good the last couple of weeks. It sure seems like he's the number one on that offense now as far as receiving goes. I still think they're probably going to be a run-first offense basically forever. One question, how do you think that he'll adjust when Phillip Rivers isn't there, which I would guess would happen in the next year or two?
My feeling is that's a valid concern for sure. I think the number one wide receiver on any team generally can put up decent production numbers. I think that it's quite possible that when he's gone that, they either draft a QB, maybe they try to use Jacob Eason. They could go down the Jacoby Brissett route. Cam Newton will be a free agent. Able to bring Cam Newton on
That's
board.
what you want?
As long as you just have a decent quarterback on your team with a decent, what I mean by decent is if you have say a number 25 and above offense, I think your number one generally gets production on that, aka John Brown, literally 2 years ago with Josh Allen. He put up decent numbers. So
that's the time machine callback. John Brown in 2018.
Yeah, it might have just been last year that it was John Brown. But
that was just
my point is if you're the number one wide receiver, I think you're fine. And for me, what I feel good about is the fact that even if that number one wide receiver isn't Pittman, I bet then the person it'll be is Campbell, who I also have. So I have both of those guys.
I was going to point that out. I think one of those two guys is going to come out looking like a rose because T.Y. Hilton is D-U-N done.
Yep,
yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah. Sam, is there any other player looking at Cody's shredding here that just literally put his team through a paper shredder? Is there any other player that you think oh yeah, he's cool, I like him?
I like Christian Kirk. Kind of have a soft spot for him. I had him at one point. I think that offense is so high powered that it can't have 2 wide receiver ones like the Vikings potentially can have just because they only have 2 receivers. But I do think that Christian Kirk will settle into that, I don't know, mid wide receiver 2 to high wide receiver 3 range. So I think he really could be a solid starter on a playoff team.
Yeah, he kind of reminds me of Tyler Lockett.
Yep, I think that's a really good comparison.
And maybe I'm only saying that because I think Kyler Murray reminds me of Russell Wilson, who reminds me of Tua Tagovailoa. But yeah, it's all coming together. It's the Da Vinci Code of quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I like about my team right now a little bit is I have about 4 wide receivers that I'm like, I think they either can be or they're getting close to, they could be mid wide receiver 2s. And then low wide receiver 2s or somewhere in that range. And it just creates a lot of depth. And then hopefully with the draft picks, I can use that to kind of just find that number one guy, or Judy steps up and makes that leap, but it's not looking like it right now. And my IR is actually pretty full right now. So like I have Saquon still on my IR, and I have Kittle on my IR right now. So there are some really good players, which is kind of why I bought them, that are just injured right now, because I knew that they'd help my team not score points this year, kind of, and I knew they'd help me out in the future.
Matt Magnuson just took complete advantage of your tiny little pooper that you got on your team, and
It's so tiny.
absolutely,
It's so tiny.
it's so tiny. He railed it and scored 177 points, going to 5-6, and we'll talk about his playoff chances a little bit later on. James Robinson, just just a year in review perspective, just absolutely unquestionably the best pickup over the offseason. It's proof that it's really important to pay attention and make these clear pickups that, at the time he was maybe made fun of a little bit for his how many dollars he actually paid for him, but holy shit, being the number 4 running back in PPR, just unreal. Am I
It's
right?
gotta be the best pickup ever it's in the 3 years that our league's been around. It's just, I mean, he's the RB4. He's if you were redrafting, this guy would be a first round draft pick. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, I think it's clearly the best one. The only one that comes close to it, in my opinion, that I've even noticed was like Darren Waller. Like Darren Waller was a good pickup, but like that's like it.
Well, let's have that debate then. I mean, Darren Waller, arguably tight end 2 in tight end 3 or 2 in Dynasty. James Robinson, RB, I don't know, 8 through 10 range, maybe even lower in Dynasty. I don't know what you guys think. I mean, who would you rather have? Who is the better pickup?
James Robinson to me. But
Yeah, I do think that's close. I think that's a good point to bring up Waller, but I would still take Robinson.
I think it's the fact that Waller to me actually isn't number 2 or number 3. I probably have him around number 4. Just because I have Kelsey, Kittle, and then probably Andrews above him right now. But
See,
the
that's where
Andrews
we
one, you can
disagree.
make the argument. Yeah, that's totally fine.
Yeah. Well, I'm not by much. I agree with Kelsey Kittle. I would put Waller at 3, and I think that he's got a bright future with Derek Carr locked in and as that quarterback of late. It's very clear that he's the quarterback for the long term. And I actually would rather have Waller, because that tier of tight ends is such an important tier to be in our league, that having one of those top 4 guys, and I think Waller is one of those top 4 guys. Like, I don't see any reason why that's going to change. I might be naive, but Waller's still young and he has low mileage because he was a fucking drug addict for most of his time that he could have been in the NFL. So
That could be high mileage, depending on how you think about it.
I mean, to be fair, he's not that young. He's like 28, but
yeah. But I mean, less than 29.
I think the argument could be made too is like, as we continue going forward, is like, they've already shown how much they progress, is like both Hawkinson and Font. They both have progressed a ton. Like Hawk's got to be getting close to being up there now. Just because he's putting up the production numbers. Font, whenever he does play, he generally puts up the production numbers. Like, Font isn't quite there yet, but you can see the athleticism is clearly there.
Yeah, I
get
can
what
see
you're
the
saying,
athleticism. Waller's athleticism is arguably better than Fant's, and Hawk is an excellent. He has certainly panned out as an NFL tight end because he's incredible at blocking. I don't think that he's that great of a fantasy tight end. Like, his ceiling is just capped because he's never going to be that guy that's like Waller, which Waller and Kelsey and Kittle are all guys they literally just put out to be wide receivers, essentially. Not that they don't block, but that capability of just being like the actual wide receiver 2 on each of their teams. In some respects, historically, Kittle has been wide receiver 1 on that team. So it's like,
yeah,
I don't know.
and he's highly regarded as the number 1 blocking tight end in football as well.
yeah, I mean, Kittle's a different beast, but to me, I actually think Fant's a decently better athlete than Waller. I think Fant's the second most athletic tight end in the league.
Yeah, maybe
personally.
he's just capped by his offense.
Could be.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, could be. He's just young too. I mean, he's like, what, 22, 23?
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
There you go. You got your arguments.
Yeah, there's our debate. We got one in. No
Nice.
dollar baits, though. The Fulgham trade has gone way down. I know Matt acquired him after he was like, passed around like a whore being took a train on. But yeah, two weeks in a row of exactly 1 point. Like, is this more of Carson Wentz and the Eagles offense, or is this more Travis Fulgham?
Honestly, I'm not sure. I didn't watch either of those games. To me, the targets are still like, obviously it's not what it was, but like 5 and 7 isn't that bad. Like I said, I still am a fan of him. I don't view him as a wide receiver 1, but I still think he can put up low end wide receiver 2 numbers, and I think those targets honestly support that. I do not know why he only got 1 catch out of 5 and 7 targets respectively. Maybe they were uncatchable. I honestly didn't watch those games, but that is slightly concerning. But yeah, overall, I still think he's a fine starter.
Yeah, I think this 2-week very small sample size it just kind of affirms our viewpoint, which was that he is due for regression. I think that's all that we can say.
Yeah. From the number 1 wide receiver through those 5 weeks.
Right.
Yeah, I think he'll find himself somewhere in the middle where he's not going to average 20 and he's not going to average 1.8, but I really do think he could average like 10. So still be decent.
Sure. Yeah, still worth owning for sure. 100%. Yeah.
Okay, one thing I want to point out on Matt's team, I didn't see this until now either, and I know the reports were kind of supporting this a little bit, but can you scroll up to his running backs really quick? He started LaMichael Pirine over a certain player that he drafted at number 3 overall. Jonathan Taylor. I know that they were saying they were going to get Pirine more touches and that they were saying that Taylor wasn't going to get as much as Hines, but that still is pretty shocking to me given both of their track records. But
I get it. I think I would actually have made the same decision, to be completely frank. This was actually a bit of an anomalous week for Taylor. He had 3 weeks clearly. I mean, I even without looking at this, I kind of had this opinion. Like there was a bunch of people that have thrown red flags up for Taylor. I actually don't think that this week really even necessarily takes away my concerns with him, especially for this year. Like for the future, whatever. Like he had kind of a down year, but he showed that he's capable of having a reasonable snap share. But like I would have done the same thing. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy, but it is funny to point out.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, maybe you would have done the same thing, and honestly, maybe I would have too in the similar scenario. But I do think it shows that it's LaMichael Pirine, who he has not had one good game yet, and I believe his entire career, and he's starting LaMichael Pirine over his 3rd overall pick. I think that just shows he's at least a bit concerned for Taylor's well-being or for Taylor's potential. I mean, yeah, looking at that, his best game ever was, I believe that is 56 total yards. Yeah. 56 yards from scrimmage and a touchdown. So like that's a fine game, but other than that, he really hasn't done much.
Yeah, I get it kind of where he's coming from. I mean, Pirine was projected higher than Taylor this week, so maybe that played a little influence into his decision. On Sleeper, he was at least projected higher. I would have never done that, but I guess it is what it is. I hear exactly what Sam's saying is yes, Taylor was down. But the funny thing is it didn't work this way, ironically, and I know Nyheim Hines is a pass catcher, but do you guys know Jonathan Taylor's caught every single pass he's been thrown? Every target he has, he's caught. He doesn't have one non-completed target this entire season, which is nuts. Oh, except for one. God. Well, somebody told me a wrong stat. Well, that was fun.
This might be wrong.
He has one non-completed target. Sorry.
That still is pretty ridiculous, though.
It is.
I did not realize that. 26 for 27 is a lot higher than I would expect.
That is interesting. I don't want to belabor this too much, so I'm just gonna make this really quick. Because we're talking about his running backs, and all year I think this debate has been so interesting between Singletary and Moss. Just real quick, who would you rather have for Dynasty, Singletary or Moss?
That's a good question.
I think I would say Moss.
I think I would too. Honestly, if I could ship them for anything, I would say neither. But it sucks that they're both splitting and they're not on a run first offense. So I think it's going to be rough for both of them. But probably Moss overall.
I think
it's kind of run first. Josh Allen runs.
Good point.
Right. Yeah, this is something that I had to face myself with because for a long time, Matt and I were trying to trade. And at one point, I basically had said, I want to package both of them because I was like, I don't know who to pick. And he would agree with me. And then at one point, he was like, well, what about Moss only? And I was like, fuck, that means I have to pick him over Singletary. And then it just petered out because I'm like, I don't want either of them, I think was kind of where I was at with them. God, I think that's wild. Like one of them has to turn out. Otherwise, they're just going to draft another running back. Like it's just crazy. And that's
I
a
don't
good
think-
team.
I don't think
I
they
don't think
do
they'll
it.
draft a running back. I think they'll just do it by committee.
Yeah.
I think both of those are fine, like bye week fillers, but I would not be comfortable with them in my week to week lineup, personally.
God, no. But to answer the question, I think I would rather have Moss. He's looked a little bit more dynamic than Singletary, more capable of catching out of the backfield too. So especially in a PPR league, that's kind of the push for me.
I agree.
Cool. That's Matt's team. Let's move on. Jake O'Brien, Mike Reed. Jake scored 150 points, moves to 5-6. Aaron Rodgers chalk week. James Conner is,
The chalkest week you could possibly have for James Conner.
yeah. I mean, he for a long time he was like, oh, is he a top 5 running back? He's just not. He's just going to be that like low end RB1, RB2 for a couple more years, I think. Todd Gurley on the really low side though, 8 carries. Like, what the? Is that just? Oh, they were down all game. Yeah.
Well, he didn't score a touchdown.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of been his bread and butter this game or this year, but it looks like he does not have a week above 10 where he hasn't scored a touchdown. So
Yeah.
I think that
good
kind of
point.
shows what he's about. But
Yeah, I don't know. Brian Hill also got like 4 carries and played 44% of the snaps. Actually played more snap percentage, and he didn't have any receptions either. So I don't know if they like Brian Hill more for blocking also or what's going on there. But
I
Todd
think they were
Gurley's
down
on.
the whole game too, right?
Yeah, they were. But I think Todd Gurley's on his last leg. I think it's I don't know. It could be this year and it could be it. I hate to say that. Maybe that's an overreaction, but he sure doesn't feel like a viable running back anymore.
Well, especially with everyone's concerns that we know about with his health,
Yeah.
if he's slowing down in fantasy and we've got the long-term health concerns. I mean, every offseason just drains even more on him because it's just kind of a ticking time bomb. So
I do think he'll hang around for a while though. I mean, he's an RB1 right now, or at least borderline on the season. So like,
yeah, I agree.
he's been good this year.
How much do we like this Taysom Hill pickup? Is this like whatever, who cares? Or is this really like, holy shit, this might be like, I'm not going to say quarterback of the future, but this could be one of those deals where he's like a solid QB2 for the Saints in 2021. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it could be a really, really big pickup. I don't know his long-term value. I was a lot more concerned about his throwing ability, which I think he actually threw okay, not great, but he threw okay. And I think basically every game he plays, he's going to get a rushing touchdown. So it could be a huge pickup, most likely a few spot starts here and there. But
Yeah, I think he could be okay. I'm not sold on him yet by any means. I mean, did it against Atlanta's defense. Like, give him a couple tougher matchups and see how he reacts towards it. And but I agree with Sam. He did look better throwing than I anticipated. I didn't think he was going to look that good throwing, and then obviously he's a dynamic runner, but he also is 30 already. Like, I mean, that's not negligible.
But he is notably a Mormon. He did go to BYU.
Oh, that's
Good
why he
point,
can run
good point.
fast. The power of God.
Yes. He's like Tim Tebow.
Yeah. Well, hopefully not. But yeah,
I guess
I don't know.
I was just going to say, I actually think this is an awesome pickup. I was really jealous that I didn't think to pick him up, to be quite frank. I think $10 for Taysom Hill Flyers is a steal. And I think that Obi took advantage of the fact that people were kind of running out of dollars. Like, I don't know. Like, I think there's a very real possibility that he is just a QB2 next year, which is huge for $10. Like, that's massive. So
I agree. And I mean, to be perfectly honest, for $10 a fab, I think this 125-point game is worth $10 in fab. So anything above this is literally just icing on the cake.
That's a great way of putting it. That's 100% right. So he already got back his value for that, especially because he needed that spot starter, which is funny because I actually do think that's the only reason he picked him up was for the spot start. But he's like, oh, if I'm Obi, I'm like, oh, I'll keep him. All right, sweet.
Yeah, absolutely. especially with Baker's kind of with his season.
Yeah, that's a whole other topic. We don't have to touch on that. Mike Reed, he is 4-7. He's won a surprising amount of games of late. Like for a long time, he was right with Cody, and now I don't know if Mike is happy about this because his draft stock has decreased a little bit. Like we're now talking about how he's in the likes with Laramie as far as draft stock, and based on the shakeout of this upcoming week, he could be moving up quite a bit or moving down in the draft order quite a bit, which I don't think that was Mike's intention. It's just a bit unfortunate, but he did lose this week.
Couple things. Draft is solely based on potential points. So Mike will be the second overall pick, and based on points currently, there's almost nothing that can change that. And second thing is congratulations, Laramie, because he has Mike's first. So,
yeah.
Shit.
So
I'm really glad you just Tony Reality'd me there.
I don't know what that is.
There's your fact check. It's a fact check.
Oh, okay.
Tony Reality was on PTI with Mike
okay.
Wilbon and Tony Kornheiser. He used to be the guy that at the end of the show always would be like, "You're wrong about this and this and this and this."
It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
No, honestly, I forgot about that earlier this year, which is why I was talking about when Cody and Mike's game. I was like, oh my God, whoever wins this is the second pick and whoever loses the number one pick. And that was like, no, it's based on potential points. And look back and like, okay, yeah, we voted on that. Makes sense.
And I am
yeah,
glad we did that.
Yeah, it's a great change. But yeah, he has no picks next year, so doesn't matter a whole lot for him, but really good for Laramie's team to get.
So in other words,
probably Travis Etienne.
So I guess we kind of like we kind of started changing this segment now to like year in review, and so year in review, this is his team moving forward. He doesn't really have draft picks, to your point, or doesn't have any notable draft picks.
Not till 2022.
Not till 2022. So how do you feel about, if I'm Mike Reed and I'm asking you guys, hey guys, I don't know anything about fantasy. I just want to ask my opinion about my team. What do you tell him? What's his team looking like?
I think he's – oh, go ahead, Sam.
Okay. Yeah, I think we're probably going to say the same thing. I think he's actually in a decent scenario here. I think a lot of his wide receivers have gained a ton of value over the years. So like, to me, Claypool and Deontay Johnson, both wide receiver twos going forward. I think they're both solid starters on, the same team, unfortunately, but they actually both are really good. He's made good trades throughout the year, not before the year, throughout the year. And he has 6 firsts in 2022. So I think he'll really hit his stride in 2023, 2024 timeframe, which we were kind of talking about before this year. So he's got a ways to go. But I actually do think now he's set up in a position where he can be competitive at some point. So I think he took a terrible situation of a team and made it into not as bad of a situation.
Yeah, Sam basically took the words right out of my mouth. Completely agree. I think he has a great wide receiver foundation to go off of right now. I think, the rest of his team is going to suffer, but this is what we always said. We always knew I controlled 2021 draft. That was always kind of clear, and we always kept telling him, go for 2022 draft, go for 2022 draft before anybody else does, and that's what he did. So to me, he did exactly what he had to do to be competitive because he couldn't just stay middling. You got to pick a side, and kudos to him. He picked a side. He has solid players that he's going to grow around. Actually, just for kind of fun, I did a kind of a comparison look between Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool because I was almost going to bring that up, like which one would you rather have? And I actually looked at like their player profiles, and I'm kind of astounded, even though they're such different players. I'm astounded how close they are in a lot of statistics. For example, their true catch rate, which it just measures how good of a pass catcher are they on catchable balls. They're both roughly 80% true catch rates. Yards of separation, they're both about 1 point. I think Chase Claypool's like 1.3 yards. Deontay Johnson's about 1. The only noticeable difference to me was that I think Chase Claypool just gets a little bit more air yards just based on his size. I mean, looking at him, I compare him to like Mike Evans. I really think he's that talented, and he just has that size to back it up. And then it's actually interesting because there's not a lot of people you can really compare with Deontay Johnson, but what I kind of compare him to is a young Randall Cobb. He's really short. He's about 5'10", and he's able to just run these like little routes and get his receptions. And that's kind of why you always see him having high receptions, short yard. I mean, he had a lot of yards there, but then again, he had 12 receptions. So, and Chase Claypool's kind of your home run hitter.
Hot take. I don't want either of these guys, and I know that's really hot, but like, I think Ben Roethlisberger has furthered, like, completely cemented his Hall of Fame status because of this year. I think that these two guys lose incredible value. Like, I don't know. I guess I just don't know how to feel about, like, Ben Roethlisberger is just incredible what he does for that offense. And I think he adds so much value to these guys. He turns these guys into elite fantasy players because of how much Ben Roethlisberger is a gunslinger without James Conner being as much of an excellent running back in the sense that Le'Veon Bell was. Like, I obviously, don't get me wrong, I think James Conner's great. I just don't know how much I believe in these guys without him. Like, and I don't know how much longer Ben Roethlisberger is on that team. Like, don't get me wrong, like, he's 39 and he's having an incredible year. I don't know. Maybe that's too hot of a take, but
yeah, I'm actually going to bring out a stat to kind of support why I don't think that's the case. I'm going to bring out the stat that they have, which is per pass attempt thrown to them. Like, what's the catchable rate? Like, so basically, what's Ben Roethlisberger's? For every 10 passes he throws, how many of them are accurate catchable targets? I think out of 10, like about 7 are. So he's like basically a 7 out of 10 quarterback, which ranks about 37th or 38th in the league, which is good. Don't get me wrong, it's good, but it's kind of like average. It's not like elite. So to me, if they just get like kind of a moderately good quarterback, I actually think they could sustain this production.
All right. I'm interested. I don't know what to think.
Oh yeah. I mean, if it's what's his face from last year, they're fucked. So I forget what his name actually is now.
God, the guy that got fucking demolished by Miles.
Yeah, he got a helmet imprint in him.
Browns dude, holy
Duck
shit.
Duck or Goose or whatever his name was.
Duck or Goose. We already actually not remember his name.
Jesus.
Oh, no. We're fantasy experts here.
Mason Rudolph.
Oh, there it is.
I was gonna say I may not remember his name, but I don't think he's from Top Gun.
No, there was one of the guys that had just the weirdest nickname ever.
Was it Maverick?
Up. Yeah,
it was.
You're not thinking of Goose Gossage, the pitcher.
His name was literally okay. Wait, is this the right guy? Yeah, Devlin Hodgers. His nickname was Duck.
Oh yeah,
Duck
I know
Hodges.
who that is.
Oh.
Yeah, he was the guy, the backup before Mason Rudolph.
Yeah, so when I said Duck, that didn't trigger anything in your brain.
No, I've never heard Duck be his nickname ever.
What? Really?
Yeah, no, Sam. Don't get me wrong. It triggered something in my brain. It triggered me being in elementary school, running around 30 kids and tapping them on the head
while he makes his duck face.
I can't believe you guys never heard that. Literally look up Steelers QB nickname. The first one that comes up is Duck Hodges. Not Big Ben, Duck Hodges.
I'm sure it is, but I don't Google Steelers quarterback nickname very often.
They said it all the time during the games last year.
Switching from Tinder to Google Chrome, like, oh, Steelers quarterback.
I can't believe you guys didn't watch like one game last year. They said it in every single game. That's like all they referred to him as.
He died like after one game.
I'm pretty sure he played a few.
Did he?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe 2 or 3, but I don't know. Once Big Ben was gone, I didn't care about the Steelers anymore. I was like, they're a garbage team, which they were.
That's fine. I'm just surprised you guys never heard that.
So again, I'm just gonna end this by saying, to even that point, yeah, when Big Ben's gone, they're garbage, and now they're undefeated. Like, I don't know. Like, Big Ben is a clear-cut Hall of Famer. Not even like he's unreal. Anyway.
Yeah, I won't argue against that.
Okay, Eric Barber. Tom Brady really settled down from where he started as. but then had some weird, like, sprinkled in just unbelievable games. And like, I think the NFL world is confused what to think about, Tom Brady, especially after this week he just had against Los Angeles, making, like, I'm not going to say rookie mistakes, but just like weird non-Tom Brady plays. I don't know. He is QB number 7.
Yeah, my hot take is this, especially just from looking at it really quick. I think Tom Brady is experienced and smart enough to take full advantage of really bad defenses. You look at every game he's got over 30 points, Carolina, Las Vegas, the Chargers. They're all green for a reason, right? They're all really bad defenses. But I think once you start having some athleticism, Brady's age kicks in, and he's not the quarterback he was as far as talent. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, he threw two pretty brainless interceptions this game, I'd say. He's been very hit or miss. I think he's a lot better than I thought he would be. And I agree, he's taken advantage of bad defenses, and he's got clearly elite weapons, probably the best receiving core in the league, especially with Antonio Brown. So, yeah, I mean, I hate to admit it, but I still think he's a good starter the rest of the year. But, I don't know. How long does he have left? We ask it every year. So
40-3.
Yeah.
I do think I won $1 bet off this because I did say he would be a QB1. But who knows what happens, I guess.
Did you? You might have. I don't remember.
I don't know. I don't remember either. But
speaking of that, we forgot to kind of cover it. I don't want to derail this really quick, but I want to get your guys' opinions on Antonio Brown. He had 13 targets this last week, and I think he had like 8 receptions from that. What do you guys think about him going forward? I mean, 2 13-point weeks in a row?
This year or Dynasty?
Let's just go the next 3 years.
I think he's worthless. I think he's going to have off-the-field issues and not going to play football.
Yep. Yeah. If the question is next 3 years, I would just rather have him for this year. I think he's a great buy. Like, I would pay a third for him for the playoffs if I needed a wide receiver.
Yeah, I think that's fair value. I think a second is too much, honestly, because a second has a decent chance of being a starter on your team.
Right.
And I just think, I mean, age is one thing here, but I truly don't think – I think he'll have some personal issue come up in the next year that he won't be in football anymore. So he's a wild card and a head case, and I'm not a fan anymore. But
oh, God. Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. I was just interested to see.
No, it's a good question. No, I don't think it was a dumb question. I just think that this is like one of maybe 2 teams, this and the Chiefs, that I would want him to be on. And I don't think the Chiefs are going to ever sign him, and I don't think he's going to be on Tampa Bay next year even. So, yeah.
I think he'll be on the Jets next year. Not even kind of joking, not joking completely.
No, I could see that too. Yeah, Denzel Mims. Let's talk about him because we've talked about him quite a bit as really liking his upside, and obviously Mike does too because we've talked about how no one wants to trade him. But he has been very modest. I think people were kind of hoping that he would have that, like we talked about Michael Pittman, kind of having that like that huge breakout. Is this a quarterback situation issue, or is this just Denzel Mims not showing us what we want to see yet?
I'm pretty happy with these stats personally. Coming back from injury and putting up these stats in your first 4 games as a rookie, I actually like. But
yeah, I actually agree with Sam here. If anything, I'm gonna Tom, you know where I'm going with this. It's not a Sam Darnold issue. It's not a Denzel Mims issue. Whose issue is it?
Adam Gase.
Oh yeah, Adam Gase.
Adam Gase. Fucking Adam Gase. Get rid of him. Get rid of him. He's the worst. He sucks. God. I hate
This is where we put in the elevator interlude. Do, 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 do,
That almost sounded like Mario.
And now we're back. That was 15 minutes of Cody ranting just now. No, I actually disagree with you guys a little bit. I was kind of hoping for a little bit more, like on that mediocre team. I would have really liked to see like having 2 15-point weeks in a row with like 10 targets and stepping up. I don't disagree that Adam Gase is bad, but I don't know. I'm reading into a little bit like.
I mean, like you don't think those are decent stats for a rookie?
They are, but God, now I'm doing the same thing I said we shouldn't do for quarterbacks, but just like compared to what rookie wide receivers have done this year.
I mean, sure. I mean, compared to like Justin Jefferson and CeeDee Lamb, who have been, in my
And
opinion,
T. Higgins
his
and Brandon
historic.
Ayuk and Laviska Shenault and
Okay.
Not
Van
Laviska
Jefferson.
Shenault, not Shenault.
Go to Brandon
Not
Ayuk
Shenault.
and Laviska. I bet you he has better yards per game than both of those last two players.
Not
I'm not going to
Ayuk.
compare him to T. Higgins, and I'm not going to compare him to CeeDee Lamb or Justin Jefferson. But I bet you Ayuk and Laviska Shenault have worse stats than he does. Like he's on pace throughout a 16-game season for like 1,000 yards. For a rookie, that seems pretty on the Jets.
Yeah,
that seems
I don't
really
know.
good for me.
You could be right about Ayuk. I don't think you're right, but you could be. But for sure on Shenault. But either way, I agree with the point that you're trying to make here, Sam.
Yeah, I would rather have Ayuk based on this is
Okay,
this is
go-
what I'm talking about. This is what I wanted to see from
Go-
Mims.
Go down. Like what are his yards per game? Because that to me that looks consistent to Mims.
115,
You
91,
can
and
keep going
75.
down.
Go down. It shows the.
Oh,
total.
I see what you're saying. Well, keep in mind
Okay.
he's been
Okay, so he's
Yeah,
played
well,
8
so is
games, right?
Mims. Mims has only played 4 games.
Oh, they
So he-
do count that. They do factor that. Okay.
Okay, so
Yeah.
how many mostly full games has he played? I guess if you scroll up a little bit, it'll show.
I think they're saying 8.
1, okay, 2.
I agree with
So
that
every
assessment.
game he's played. So he's played 8 legitimate games. He's averaging less yards per game than Mims. I would rather have Mims stats, and it's not even a tie to me. I think Mims has played better in the games he's played. So like I think he averaging 60 yards, give or take. I didn't do the exact math for Mims. 60 yards per game is actually very good. Not compared to the top end talent, but compared to like these second tier guys that we've talked about.
Okay. Yeah, he
That's
doesn't
just-
have the touchdowns.
Yeah, he doesn't
Yeah.
have the touchdowns yet, but no one on the Jets does because they suck.
And I forgot we were back on Reed's team.
Yeah, I
I
just
just
wanted
saw-
to jump there for Brown really quick. I didn't mean to dive back into his team.
All right, I'm going to make the executive decision that I don't care to talk about my team at all. I'm the second or third best team. We'll go into the playoffs. We'll see what happens.
You don't want to talk about Ronald Jones at all? Which one we're going to see? No?
We've talked about it before.
Okay.
No,
He's averaged 100 yards a game for the last 2 games.
dude, it's fucking ridiculous. All right. The only thing to talk about is I hate fucking Bruce Arians. I love Bruce Arians because he elevates the value of both Ronald Jones and Fournette.
Oh, God.
But I hate that it's literally just like pick a running back, give them whatever.
You
We've already talked about it.
Got to play both of them.
Fucking I it's funny you say that. I have several weeks considered not even playing like one of my good receivers and just putting in both, just for that. Like
I wouldn't even worry about the wide receivers. Just bench Zeke and start
Yeah.
both of them.
my
Agreed.
ass. All right. I
So
think that's
actually, what one player I did want to talk about? I saw an interesting question on Reddit. Right now, would you rather have Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen in Dynasty? Because now I think it's actually relatively close. Because he's played so not as great this year.
Which is funny you say that because it's not that it's just like he's playing kind of to how he has to play. I agree it's not as great, but I don't know. I don't know. I'm not the right person to ask.
Cody, do you have a preference?
My opinion for this is just going to be Josh Allen, and that is literally solely because of Stephon Diggs. That's my sole reason why. I think without Stephon Diggs, I would still take Lamar Jackson. I think Stephon Diggs has elevated that team to giving them a number one option and then allowing Brown to be number two and letting the offense run through that. I think that's the huge difference. Now, if the Ravens get a true number one that isn't Marquise Brown, could that change? For sure. That could change. But
It's Mark Andrews, I'd say. But
Yeah,
yeah,
but
that's fair. But it's different.
I think it. No, I actually really like. I think that's exactly what it boils down to. I think if you give Lamar Jackson a real wide receiver one, I would take Lamar Jackson. Because to Cody's point, Josh Allen's value is pretty correlative to don't get me like. I think we expected some sort of development for Josh Allen going into this year, but we didn't expect this much. And you could make it's one of those classic stats thing where it's like, are these confounding variables? Like, is it Josh Allen developing or is it Stephon Diggs? And I think it's probably, a little bit of A to a little bit of B. But Lamar Jackson does not have a wide receiver one. He has 3 wide receiver twos on that team. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
I would even say low end. I mean, like the more
Yeah.
I've watched them, the like it's actually sad because I actually wish a guy that I'm not even trying to just be biased about my team. A guy I actually wish he used more was Devin Duvernay. Every time he gets him the ball, he actually puts up production numbers.
Yeah, but Duvernay's just like another Marquise Brown. That's the thing.
Yeah, they're always
Like,
fast.
right.
Yeah,
I think that Marquise Brown would benefit even from having a better wide receiver one. Like if they would have gotten DeAndre Hopkins, holy shit. If they would have gotten DeAndre Hopkins, this team is undefeated with I don't think the Steelers would be undefeated because I think they would have beat them. Like, I don't know, maybe that's a hot take, but
Yeah, I agree.
yeah.
For the record, I would take Lamar Jackson in Dynasty. I just think it's interesting that it's close now. I just think
It
his
is.
rushing. You can't replicate his rushing floor other than at this point, Kyler Murray. But
cool. All right, let's get out of this segment. I'm going to turn it to you, Codes. I want you to take over because I want you to talk about our playoff picture.
Yeah.
Woo! Let's get some
Woo!
energy.
Playoffs.
Mid-podcast energy. Let's go.
Who got that good playoff energy?
Who got that bit?
All right, just give me 1 sec. I'm just bringing it up here, and then I'll share it with the squad. So you guys talk amongst yourself, bring up something interesting.
Tom, what do you think about interesting things?
I think that I got nothing, man.
That's not that interesting. All right, I'm already there. So
Good. Thank God.
Nice filler.
thanks.
Crushed it.
So hopefully I forgot. I'm the one recording this. So hopefully this works out okay. I guess I didn't even think about that.
We'll find out.
Yeah,
Make
we'll
work.
see. As I would suspect that you guys would just see this. I bet
It
if I
looks good
just
on
move
my
that
screen.
over there. Okay, I bet if I move that over there, it'll look better. So yeah, this is kind of a graphic I actually put together about where the current standings are at. So as you can see from the top, we have Sam with the best record in the league, and he's also the division winner number one. I'm pretty sure that's all locked up, so he's going to be there. The top three spots, as Matt Magnuson pointed out, go off of division winners. Then we go to best remaining record, then the highest points for. So currently we have Sam there, number one. Matt Trujillo, who locked up the number 2 slot as the division winner. And then Division 3 is still a TBD. Currently, Adam is there, but Adam and Jake O'Brien played last week, and chances are the winner of that matchup will actually determine who will get that number 3 slot. At number 4 there, we have Tom Brumba, with a great 8-3 record. Kind of unlucky that he's in the same division as Sam, so he kind of gets that slot, but 7 points ahead of Matt Trujillo right now also. Got to point that out. But he gets the number 4 slot from having the best remaining record. And then Matt Magnuson and Marcus both kind of round out at 5 and 6, respectively, with the next highest points for out of the remaining teams. So, guys, what I want to ask you here is out of these top 6 teams, who is your sleeper? Who's the guy you think could actually make a run for it based on their, or who do you think is better than their current position?
Well, I'm going to go pop star route on this, pulling the microphone off the stand.
I like it.
Ooh, I'm doing the lean back in my chair. Ooh, is this good?
We can't see you, but yeah, that's that's kind of preferred.
Ooh, good. Then I'm going to do this kind of thing here. Lower my camera, lean back. Ooh, this is nice. I'm going to take Matt Maggs is the clear sleeper, quote unquote, because his 5 and 6 record is not indicative of his quality of his team. And I think we could see, like, especially we just talked about his running back situation too. Like, if he does happen to start Moss or Singletary and one of them goes off and he picks the right guys, like Matt's team is one of those teams where if he picks all of the correct receivers, running backs, and I guess his tight end situation and QB situation is already decided. But if he does pick the right guys, he could just explode. We could see him making a championship run.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good pick. I think Marcus has a lot of risk, and really anyone in this top 6 or 7 could pop off any week. But I do think that Matt's team has high floor and high ceiling, actually, which is pretty unique to any team in the league. So, yeah, I think he definitely could pop off.
Interesting. I think just for the sake of being a little different, I'm actually going to go with your team, Tom. I think kind of building on what we've been talking about is you're the number 4 seed right now, but you reasonably could have been, a potential bye given you if you had another division. So I think, to me, you being in the number 4 slot is a team I could actually see making a run for it. I get that, you have certain uncertainty in certain positions, but I think you have a lot of stability in other positions. So I think you're one of those teams that, I would take you definitely over Adam, definitely over whoever's going to be the number 6. You and Matt Magnuson, that's where it starts to get really close. I think you guys are actually like, you, Matt Magnuson, and Matt Trujillo all are very close to me. As far as all it takes is one good week, and then you guys can pop off.
Yeah, I think your guys' matchup next week, which is for all intents and purposes locked up unless someone else beats Matt by 60 or more points. That's close to that. It should be you versus him. That's going to be the matchup to watch next week.
Yeah, I have a very interesting playoff route because we've talked about this before, but me being the 4 seed is most advantageous to me because the only way to beat Sam is beating him in the 1 week. And so it actually sets up really well for me to eliminate, in theory, if I am able to eliminate Mags, then I get to play Sam in the 1 week playoff, which if I just happen to have a great week when he has one of his mediocre weeks, I take him there. And then I actually am the favorite, in my opinion. So
yeah, if the 3 seed wins, it's the number 1 seed after the first week plays the lowest seed remaining.
Right.
So,
I am making that assumption.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yep. Then I agree. I think that would be your easiest route to winning the championship.
I think for the sake of it, this week I'm literally going to be watching the games, or this weekend I'll be watching the games as if it is Tom versus Matt Magnuson. To me, that's definitely going to be the way I'm going to be interpreting it. I get that some of the other positions might change, but that one seems to be pretty locked.
I agree. There's very low chance those two change.
Right. So I think that kind of does that, at least for the top 6. So then let's look at the bottom 6 where we have right now. We have Jake O'Brien at number 7 with the highest max points for, because as Sam, you stated before, we made that change to the draft picks. So that way we can encourage players to not tank. So it really doesn't matter how you start your lineup. It's all about who you have on your team, which we think is a great solution to that. So it goes with Jake O'Brien, Eric Barber, Ben Fowler. They're all, and Laramie even, they're all relatively close in their max points for. So, when I was putting this together, it was just last week I had Ben from number 9. He was the number 3 ranked player because he was leading the division. It shows you how much can just change in a week. It really is a ton of flexibility. So these by no means are final. I think there's going to be a lot of movement still, a lot of kind of reshuffling, but we will, after the 13th week, I guess, kind of actually have our foundation for where our draft will be at least the draft order for the top 6 players. Or I should say the bottom 6, rather. So, like I said, Ben Fowler, Laramie, and then obviously I would say Mike and me are very solidified there at the bottom. So we know Jake has a chance to make playoffs. We know Barber has a very outside chance of making playoffs. We know Ben Fowler is in an interesting place where he could win, the division possibly, but probably not. To me, it's which of these bottom 6 teams are you guys most excited to see going forward?
To me, it's clearly Jake. He has by far the easiest route to the playoffs. All he has to do is really beat Adam and not lose to Fowler by over 40 points, which if he beats Adam, I assume that's also the case unless Fowler puts up like 230, 240. Can be less than that, 200, let's say. So yeah, I actually think Jake has very close to a 50-50 of making playoffs. So he's right in that, in my opinion.
Yeah, you could even make the argument that it's even potentially greater than 50-50. I do think so. There's to add on to that. I also think it's Jake, and I think it's because not only does he have the best chance to make the playoffs, but I do think that all year, even though I've been down on his team, I do think he's been due for positive regression back to the mean consistently. So I could see him very really making the playoffs, and then I could see him maybe making it to the next round, and then maybe even making it to the championship, which is only significant to say that because at the moment he's not in the playoffs. So
yeah, and that's a perfect segue into how can these guys go to the playoffs. So I tried to lay out kind of a broad sense in this next slide. how these teams can maintain their playoff spot, what seed that is. So I'm just going to work my way through them really quick. Guys, feel free to add any comments or commentary that you want to. Feel free to interrupt me. Let's start from the top. So the number one person that we have is Adam, at least from my estimations. How does Adam make the playoffs? Well, he wins the division automatically by beating Jake. If we go back to the other slide, you can see that Adam right here, Adam, Jake, and Ben all have a 3-2 divisional record currently. And the reason why we look at that is because they're all 5-6, which I guess if Adam wins, he just moves to 6-6, and Jake O'Brien would move to what would that be? 5-7. So I mean, there's a lot of things at play here, but essentially then it goes from record to divisional record to max points for, which Adam clearly has the what
points.
Or sorry, yeah, just points for, not max points for. Which Adam clearly has the advantage on all those areas, which is why we probably have Adam with the highest chance of, I mean, out of all these teams, he has the highest chance of making playoffs.
Right. So just to talk about that matchup really quick, scrolling through their teams at the moment, Adam has all of his highest projected players. And so he's projected to score 159.6. And Obi, if he actually swatches in Baker, who is supposed to be projected to 18 points, so just going off strictly projected, he should be at 162. So he is theoretically favored with projected, but that just goes to show you how close it is. I think that is by far the matchup to watch this week.
That's all in week 13, right?
Yeah, week 13.
Yep.
Okay, just making sure. Yeah, so again, going through the scenarios for Adam. Beats Jake, he's in. He gets the record. He has a better record than both. Well, he'll have a better record than Jake, and he would have a better or equal record as Ben Fowler. But as you can see kind of on this chart down here, there's an 81-point gap differential between Ben Fowler and Adam for points for. So it's more than likely going to be Adam taking that. So for this scenario, I just said Adam wins against Jake, since all these ignore 50-point variances. Other way Adam can make playoffs. Say he loses against Jake. Okay, so what does he need to get? He needs to get that number 6 seed. He needs to get that next points for. We can see right here that Adam is currently only 16.44 points away from Marcus. So, or actually above Marcus currently, sorry. So if he loses, but say he loses with the high score and Marcus just doesn't score more than 16 points than Adam, he locks up that number 6 seed. So, guys, give me a percentage chance of Adam making playoffs this year.
I go 60, probably 65, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it's just because it's like the combinatorial addition of it. It's not just like beating Jake. It's also like he loses. Yeah, I don't know. I guess because I was saying like 45% that he beats Jake, or like maybe 46, 47%. But he also has that route of losing and then not having that 16-point differential over Marcus. So I think Sam's spot on 60, 70%.
Yeah, I didn't know that differential was that close. I thought Adam had him by a lot more than that, but it's a nice leeway, but that every week 16 points is pretty easy to make up. So that could really go either way if he loses.
Which is why I'm agreeing with you and saying 60 to 7, because otherwise we would say like 90 if it was like a sizable lead. Like even if it was like 10 points more, we would probably saying like 70 to 80, and then if it was 30 points or 35 points, we'd be saying like 90. But yeah, it's slim.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, and I actually do agree with Sam. Is you do have to take the situation into account of if Adam is losing, that generally more than likely could mean that he's not putting up major points. I mean, he could. It definitely is in the realm of possibility, but it is something to consider on the opposite end of it. So I think it builds into your guys' guesses, pretty accurately. Let's move on to Jake. Kind of on the flip side of that, to get an estimation of how he can make playoffs. So straight up, easiest way: Jake wins against Adam, but then Ben loses to Mike. Pretty straightforward. Makes sense. Nothing really much to think there. Now, let's say Jake wins against Adam and Ben wins against Mike Reed. Since they're on the same division, they would be tied. The next goes down to points for, but we can see that Jake O'Brien has a 42.3 point differential over Ben Fowler. So if he's winning against Adam, Ben Fowler really needs to score a monumental amount in order to beat Jake to make the playoffs. It just was in my 50-point variance, but really could almost be thrown out. It's that far away.
I could be wrong, but I believe if Jake loses against Adam, he actually has to make up ground on Marcus, right, for that 6th seed?
Yeah, if he loses. This is if Jake wins. This is saying Jake wins and Ben wins.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah, never mind.
Yep. So this is saying Jake and Ben both win, so they have the same record. They would have the same divisional record, and then it just goes down to points for.
Okay. Yeah.
We're getting down and dirty. We're getting there. We're getting to the fun stuff. We like to have fun here. And so, literally drinking intensifies. This is, Ben, it's really unlikely. So let's get to what you were saying, Sam. Let's actually get to the scenario where Jake loses. So if Jake loses, Jake needs to score 22.7 points more than Marcus. Because Adam takes the number 3 seed, as we can see from the top scenario, Jake needs to score that over Marcus while losing. And then obviously the Ben thing is kind of thrown in there as an underlying effect as well. Does this make sense? Do you guys follow?
Yeah. Yep, it does.
I follow.
He needs to catch up to Marcus, basically.
Yep. He needs to catch up to Marcus by 22.7 points, which you can see on the chart right here is actually how I drew it all out. As you can see, this is all 3 of these guys against Adam and the point differentials, and then it just goes down in the tier basis from there. So you can draw your lines from there, which is where I got it from. To me, it seems like Jake and at least Adam's in a position where if he loses to Jake, I think he has a reasonable chance to still make playoffs. I think if Jake loses to Adam, his chances of making playoffs seem very difficult. Any objections to that?
No. So let's do that, right? So let's just go through each of the scenarios. I like the percentage thing. All right. Jake beats Adam. I'm still saying, and I don't think you guys have really had objections to this, that's like 53 to 55% chance. It's very even. And Ben losing against Mike is very rare. So it's like, what? We'll say that's 20% that Ben loses to Mike. Give or take. All right. So all right, let's just keep going. Scenario 2. Jake beats Adam, still 55, 35. And then again, Ben doesn't score 42.3 more than Jake. I guess that's pretty high percent chance, right? That Ben doesn't score 42.3 more than Jake.
Yeah.
Not only that, but if Jake beats Adam. So we're saying we're saying that Jake scored more than Adam, and then Ben scored 42 more than both of them, which feels pretty unlikely, but could happen.
Right. So then we have to take both of those scenarios and combine them. And I'm looking at that. That's very favorable for Adam, right? Or sorry, Jake.
Yep.
Okay. Then the third scenario, I don't even actually think that's necessarily a plausible scenario for him, right? We all agree that's like a 10% scenario that he actually makes the playoffs off that.
No, not at all.
Well, it's not that bad. Yeah, I mean, he just has to outscore Marcus by 20. It's actually not that much different than Adam. The Ben Fowler thing was just thrown in there as a caveat that Ben doesn't score more than him by 42 points.
That's right.
If Marcus has an off week and Jake puts up like 160 and loses to Adam, he'll probably be in.
That's fair.
So, yeah.
So long story short, there's a very high probability that both Jake and Adam make the playoffs.
Yeah. I still think Jake is probably slightly above 50-50, but relatively close to that. Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, I think it's actually one of those weird things to me where, I actually agree with that. But once we get down to Marcus, I don't know for sure. Because if Marcus just has a good week, it just is all irrelevant. So, you know what I mean? Like, we'll have to see.
And we have to wait 2 weeks for all of this.
Yeah.
I know. That's going to be the killer. And it's like the team that Marcus will be playing against is the loser. Like the points comparison that he'll have is the loser. But there is an obvious side where it's clearly easier for Marcus to make playoffs than the other side. But we'll get there in time. The only other person I wanted to cover really quick, just because I kind of wanted to keep the Division 3 all in the same place, was we have Ben Fowler. Now, on the outside chance, how the hell does Ben Fowler make playoffs? I will tell you. Ben Fowler makes playoffs by winning against Mike, having Jake win against Adam, so that Jake and Ben both had the same record and had the same divisional record. But then, as you can see from the graph, Ben Fowler is still 42 points behind Jake, which he needs to overscore 42 points by Jake. So, I mean, we're talking Ben Fowler to me, what, guys, needs a 210 week almost? Like, he needs some ridiculous amount in order to make this possible.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it is not going to be easy for him at all. I would say less than 5% chance he makes it at this point.
Dude. Cody, this is what I'm going to say. I am simultaneously impressed with you and disappointed in you because I think that you went a mile to get to the bar, but you didn't actually go into the bar and take a drink, because taking the drink would have been actually getting out your fucking graphing calculator from like 8th grade and doing like the standard deviation statistics percentage plots on this, because
Yeah, I should have.
I can't process all this information.
I think you've been drinking too much already. But
Yeah, I'm on beer 3. I think that's
I think we're going off the rails. But
I am
no,
off the rails.
there is a lot of complexity to this. I think I just tried to lay it out with these are just possible scenarios. I think the fact is there's a million scenarios that could happen, right? Like, what if I scored 600 points? Like, it's something stupid like that, which isn't even reasonable. But to me, it was that this is the only way I'm almost positive that Ben makes playoffs. He does not make playoffs without these stipulations. So at least there are requirements that will be have to have happened. Like, Eric Barber's also kind of in this mix, but Eric needs to pretty much outscore whoever he's facing by 50 points, 51 points at the bare minimum if it works out for him. So it's very unlikely for Barber, so I didn't even throw him on this list. But Ben Fowler honestly could have probably been left off too. But just for the simplicity of leaving our Division 3 guys out there, just for Ben Fowler, because I feel like
No.
Yeah.
I want to explain it like I'm 5 to myself by saying that Ben's chance of making the playoffs are very low, only because those first 2 conditions being met are not difficult. It's the third condition of Jake winning but also getting blown out by Ben. Like, that's just that is like a 5% scenario.
Yeah. I feel like the first thing is implied if Ben beats Jake by 42.
Right.
But then, Jake beating Adam's reasonable, but Ben beating Jake who beat Adam by 42 is very, very hard.
And I want to point out the fact that I think it's really interesting for Ben is that he can not only, but he can really only reasonably get the number 3 seed, not the number 6 seed. That's so interesting the way that works to me.
It's interesting, but it's also what frustrates me about how we're trying to emulate the NFL, because it's like, are you telling me that if this situation happens that Ben deserves the 3 seed? Like, come on.
No, but I think it makes it more interesting. It makes it a lot more exciting. Because I think when you just have a ticky-tacky type system that only goes based off points for or just record, it just becomes very dry, and I think there's not a lot of competition. I think this helps bring in competition, which I'm assuming this is why the NFL and every other sports organization does this type of system, is because it makes it more fun to view.
Yeah, I agree. And although I see what you guys are saying, that he can only be the 3 seed and not the 4, 5, or 6, I don't care what seed you are if it's not a play. If you don't have a bye. The byes are the only seeds that matter, in my opinion. But to me, 3 through 6 are literally identical. I think they all have the same chance of winning. I don't really care that much what seed I would be if I didn't have a bye. That's me personally. Just like I don't care if I had the second seed. You know what I mean? Like we've discussed, right? So if I'm the number 1 seed and I've that locked up. If Ben makes playoffs and Ben wins the first matchup, that means Trujillo gets to play him, guaranteed. And that's a way easier matchup than whoever I would play. So I don't think there's really any advantage based on seeding, just based on bye and who actually makes playoffs.
Yeah, I agree with that too. And I think it is interesting the fact that it would be different if these were, say, between the number 4 and 6 seed, where your matchups could be different. But in this sense, they're all going to be playing each other anyways. What I mean by that is we identified Tom and Matt as being the sleeper teams. They're playing pretty much automatically against each other in week 1. Like if for example, if like Adam winning the division, say Tom was like the number 6 seed, or Matt Magnuson was going to be the number 6 seed or something like that, and we thought they were a sleeper team, then whether he got the number 3 or number 6 could actually make a lot of difference in that sense. I think it's what I'm just trying to allude to is the fact that I agree with you. It doesn't really make that much of a difference of getting number 3 or number 6 in these matchups or in these seedings. It could have made a difference if they actually had a potential tougher matchup that they would be facing.
Yeah, and it could. But what I'm saying is I think it's random.
Yeah,
and that's why I don't care that much.
That's the potential flaw to me, because to me it's the difference between the NFL and the college football playoff. In the college football playoff, or let's compare it to March Madness, your seed does matter because your seed is all based off your perceived real value and your real strength against the rest of your schedule and how good you actually are as a team. And so if you have a higher seed, you have a higher chance to win. You're saying that, oh yeah, we're just going to be like the NFL where as long as you make the playoffs and you're not a bye, it doesn't matter. Whereas I'm saying maybe that's, I don't know. I guess I'm not trying to open the floor for this debate, but I'm just saying like maybe it should be that if you're the number 3 seed, you should play the 6th best team for sure, instead of just being like random.
Then 2 options, and one we actually talked about last year, which I really like, is the number 3 seed getting to choose who they play. So they do play, in their opinion, the worst team, and I think that's fun.
Yes.
And I mean, I guess if you're equating it to the college football, another option would be to vote on who should be what seed based on potential strength, but that seems too complicated to me.
No. Did we vote on the first one you said? Because I'm pretty sure I voted for sure on that one.
Yeah, we at least discussed it, and it got shot down pretty quick.
Yep.
That's frustrating.
I don't remember if we had a full vote or not, but
that's what I'm trying to articulate. Like, I know what you're saying because you're basing it off. I don't disagree with what you're saying. You're basing it off of our system. There's no like it's either bye or in the playoffs, and I'm saying maybe we should reevaluate there. I think that's kind of screwed up. It's like, and it's just random.
Sure. I mean, week to week, I don't think the teams aren't going to be that much different anyway. You know what I mean? Like, theoretically, the best team and probably the second best team, or at least very close to it, aren't going to be in that first 4 anyway. So you're at that point, you're talking 3rd through 6th. But
which is funny you say that, because in this situation, yeah, we're not the best team, but we have arguably the second best team as a 4 seed.
Arguably, but I mean that's 1 seed away from where you should be. You know, you're 7 points ahead of Trujillo.
2 seeds away.
You're 7 points ahead of Trujillo.
Okay.
I mean, I think that's semantics at that point. Personally.
2.5 then, so 1.5 seeds away. But
okay, that's fine. I get what you're saying on the bye, but I'm not going to say you should be the number 2 seed because it's basically the way that we agreed originally that the division winner should be. That's the way we've talked about it for literally a year and a half, and no one said anything.
No. But yeah. I'm just saying it makes real implications on who the person that is the 3 or 4 seed plays. And at the moment, we're looking at a situation where both the 4 and 5 seeds are just better than the 3 seed, arguably.
Yeah, but I think that happens all the time. I don't think there's anything we can possibly do to stop that other than literally just the 3 seed getting to pick who they play.
That's
would actually still end up being the exact same thing this year, most likely.
Yeah, it actually would be.
True.
So I don't know. Yeah. Like I think this is we obviously created this entire setup. And I think this is something that can just be a work in progress that we should discuss every offseason if there's any major changes. Like even before the podcast, I brought up potentially doing the first seed overall being the same way and then the second seed strictly based on points, kind of a hybrid system like we did the rest of the playoffs. But I think there are a bunch of different options that we could do that are fun and more fair. So I think anything that we should discuss and vote on after this season as well. But
to me, it's also the biggest question is just, are people having fun with this? and is the system at least working from an entertainment perspective? And I would say more than any other season so far, I'm having a ton of fun as not even a competitive team. I'm having a ton of fun watching all the possible competitions, because the more teams you have possible to make playoffs and to have a chance to be in the playoffs makes for a more competitive and fun league. It just traditionally does. There's a reason why expanding MLB playoffs felt like it was more enjoyable for a lot more fan bases and a lot more teams. It just always is that way. I get that you want to feel like you have the top winner at the end, which I think the buys help, because I think this system does reward the best team, which it always should reward the best team. And to me, it's the rest is just kind of entertainment and semantics. But it's not full on semantics, because there is just there is still an advantage. Whether it's 1 week or 2 week, sure, 1 week is less of an advantage than a 2 week playoff by a good team, but it still is an advantage. A good team traditionally still has a good week more than a bad team. For example, if one of you guys is facing me in a 1 week playoff, sure, I could beat you, but I probably won't.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm speaking as probably the best team in the league. Like, I get it. It's a disadvantage to me to have a 1 week playoff, but I think it's good that we have it that way so we can have every team that deserves to be in the playoffs. Like right now, at least in my opinion, me, Tom Trujillo, Matt clearly deserve to be in. And then I think, honestly, Jake, Marcus, and Adam, all our fringe teams, that 2 of them will probably get in. So, like, I think this year it's been pretty much everyone that should get in has gotten in, compared to like the first year we did it, where Jake clearly should have gotten in and missed playoffs completely and just didn't have a chance.
Yeah. But I want to keep going, and I want to get to Marcus, because we've covered the first people in the Division 3. Let's actually see the other outsider from this example. And Marcus is strictly just going for the number 6 seed. I mean, I guess he could be going for the number 5 seed. He needs to outscore Matt Magnuson by like 70 or 80 points, so he's not really going for it. So it's kind of clear here that what he wants is for Adam to win. If I'm Marcus right now, I want Adam to win, because if Adam wins against Jake, he just needs to make sure Jake doesn't score 23 points more, 22.74 points more than himself in order to secure that number 6 spot. However, if he watches the game and sees that, which would be week 13, which is really, again, kind of weird. But if he looks at week 13 and he sees, shit, Jake's going to beat Adam, then he just needs to make sure for that week 12 game that Adam did not score more, or that he scores more than 16.44 points than Adam. If so, then he's still in that spot. So, guys, Marcus is a really interesting pick right here. What percentage do you guys have him at for making playoffs?
30.
I was going to say he's closer to 50 to me, but I mean, it kind of feels like it's just Adam versus Jake versus Marcus, and the top 2 teams that come out of that make playoffs.
I think that's an apt way of putting it.
Yeah, it's weird, because if we put Marcus at 50, for example, that means we put Jake, Adam, and Marcus all at an over 50% chance of making playoffs.
That makes sense. There's 2 spots for 3 teams.
Well, I guess so.
So theoretically, it should be 66%.
66, sure.
But then you mix in a little bit of Ben and a little bit of
other sides.
But
sure.
Yeah, so we were probably off a little bit, to be honest. Maybe we're a little low on everyone, but I think that's pretty close.
Sure, that makes
low
sense.
On everyone, which means no one should make the playoffs.
Yeah. Who should make the playoffs? No one.
We should do a pick 'em.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm
Is
fully
that the
in.
last?
Yeah, that was it. I think the biggest pick is, who do you guys have? Who is going to win that game? Is it going to be Jake O'Brien, or is it going to be Adam Wentz? And I'm going to go to the sleeper right here. That way we can actually see the matchup in week 13.
There's no week 13 right now, I don't think.
Well, we can look at the individual teams.
Let's
right?
set up some parameters here. Loser does the ice bucket challenge to support ALS.
Didn't that guy just die?
Yeah, that's why I thought of it.
Oh, cool.
Absolute rip.
The posthumous ice bucket.
All right, so let's take a look at. Oh, this isn't going to have total score in it. I don't really know how to do this effectively.
Yeah, it's fine. Either way, I'm taking Jake. I think his team's gonna come alive, carry him to victory.
I'm all
Jake.
great.
And who though? There's another
Yeah, that's a
contentious.
good point. I'm going Jake and Adam. I think Marcus gets cut.
Cody, who are you taking?
I'm gonna take. Sorry, I'm just looking at his matchups here that he has. Burrow's out. That's a huge hit. He's not. I guess he's Derek Carr against
You're not supposed to
Atlanta.
actually look at the matchups. You're supposed to just roll a dice and go with your gut.
No. Here,
Rip
hold
a
on. I'm gonna look
shot
at
and
Jacob
go.
Bryan's team really quick.
Cody, how has the research helped you at all? You're 0-11.
Cody,
No, but that
Cody's
was my
done
plan.
like 3
That was
hours
my
of
plan.
research.
No.
3 hours
That
of
was my
research
plan.
and still has to look at the
Rodgers against
matchups.
Chicago.
Oh my God, Tom, who are you
Jason.
taking?
Yeah, you go first, Tom.
I'm taking Jake and Adam. That's it.
In that order.
Well, shit.
They play each other anyway.
Right.
So-
I guess. Yeah. True.
I'll take Adam to take the number 3 spot, and then you know what? I'm gonna say because if Adam wins, then Jake has to outscore Marcus. I'll take Marcus
So you're
to
going
take the
chalk.
number 6. What?
You're going chalk.
I don't know what that means.
You're going like the most likely scenario.
Right.
Oh yeah, I'm going where they're currently at.
Sam and I are both taking a slightly. Yeah. Well, now I
Jeez.
feel like I got to go. God damn it! You know what? I'm gonna make this more fun.
Go Ben Fowler.
I'm gonna take Jake and Marcus.
Oh, good.
He's the wild card. Well, this will be interesting.
Yeah,
This
I
feels
think
like picking League of Legends champions all over again.
I can't believe neither of you guys are going Fowler. I thought he was so likely. Only needs to gain 40 points.
he's so close.
No, that's the roughest one.
Yeah,
Maybe I'll just go Eric Barber. Pull out the full curveball.
could happen. He's 51 points away.
Who do you think has a better shot of making it, Ben Fowler or Eric Barber?
Barber. To me,
Sure.
at least.
Sure. Who cares?
Yeah, both.
Is
pretty
that like an
well.
argument of who has a better chance, me or
Yeah, my
Mike?
answer is yes.
Yeah, real.
Okay. That's all I got. I'm gonna stop sharing. I don't want to share my screen anymore. This is fun. Kind of.
We like to have fun here.
I don't know how to stop sharing my screen.
I feel like I gotta brush up on my statistics after this week. Holy shit!
If you want,
Does-
I don't think I have my graphing calculator anymore, but if you want it, I have like a TI 84. You can have that.
All right. Do you have a textbook that I can read too?
I mean, I have a textbook, but you can just hit your head with it over and over again.
That's what I was planning on doing because I think my odds of retaining statistics knowledge from doing that is higher than actually reading it. So
So
anyway.
this is fun.
this was fun. It was a long ass podcast.
Yeah. We were worried it wouldn't be long enough.
I always knew it would be long enough. How long are we even up to? Like 2 hours?
I know
45
probably.
hours?
about that. Yeah,
We had a lot to
So-
discuss.
we did. It was 2 weeks worth of podcasts.
True. Take an average.
So, speaking of taking an average, thanks for listening to our average opinions on the Midwest Dynasty Fantasy Football Podcast. We look forward to talking to you after next week, which will be kind of the boring week, but then week 13 is real exciting, so we can see the turnout of these playoff predictions.
Don't forget to mention, Tom, the drunk episode we have planned for the offseason.
Oh, yeah, we're
Oh,
definitely
yeah.
doing that. I thought that was I thought that was this episode.
Oh, no, this is just the pregame episode. This is pregame for the drunk episode.
Oh, I did it wrong.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
No, sounds good. Thanks again for listening, guys. We'll talk to you soon.
Peace.
It's a football podcast with Tom, Cody, and Sam.